Hey loved ones, I'm Keyosha. It's pronounced Keyosha, meaning key of the ocean. I'm a life coach and a motivational speaker, known for my company, Key Coaching, which focuses on self-betterment. In this podcast, I'm going to share with you what I've learned from being a coach. I'll provide you the keys not just to survive, but to thrive. Hey, and welcome back to Wisdom Wednesdays. Today's topic of discussion will be power dynamics. 6 sections of power dynamics are usually a difference in age, a difference in race, a difference in gender, your position, whether or not it be like authoritative or civilian, or a difference in wages. Lastly, there's a difference in your education and your qualifications. The reason why I want to bring up power dynamics is because your power dynamic, wherever you're learning, living, or working, can dictate the way that you feel you're being treated, or sometimes even the people that you associate yourself with. Because often when there's a difference in a power dynamic, you find yourself experiencing something called marginalization. What does that mean? It's a specific treatment of a person, group, or concept as insignificant or peripheral, meaning like secondary. In summary, marginalization is the treatment of a certain demographic as if they were inferior or less than. So, the difference between somebody who makes more than you might mean that that person might treat you differently. Someone who is in a different position than you, like a manager, might ill-treat you, or an authoritative figure like a teacher might be really rude to some of their students. Or a group of women may be mean to men. You get the idea. The reason why this is so important to be aware of is because despite the fact that we wake up and we do our thing within our households without actually realizing what kind of a demographic we belong to, when we're faced by the rest of the world, sometimes those demographic differences may affect our power dynamic. And it can be the difference between getting really ill-treated and then mentally and emotionally affected by it for the rest of your day, or actually stopping and taking a second to realize that it's literally just a difference in power dynamic because of someone else's marginalization on your demographic. I mean, of course we can get into the aspect of it's just kind of like the flip side of the coin, where often when you're part of the same demographic as other individuals, you find people who you can relate to. You relate to one another and you band together, and it gives you a sense of belonging, like a sense of community. I feel like no matter where I am in the world, as long as that other individual or other individuals understand me and I understand them, I know what it's like to be a woman in the world, or be a person of color in the world, or be a millennial in the world. Even that is a difference of dynamic, because from generation to generation, there's a difference of technology. And so despite the fact that it's a simple generational age gap, it's not as simple as it might seem, especially because the resources that are available to us in the palm of our hand that we've become so familiar that we literally eat, sleep, and use the bathroom with wasn't as readily available to the generations that came before us, even as quickly and closely to us as our own parents. That's literally one generation. It's like not that many generations, obviously, singular one. But when you're trying to understand a power dynamic, you're quite literally trying to understand what resources are available to that person, whether or not it's more money from their wages, more power from their position, more knowledge from their education and qualifications. And so a lot of times when we're feeling smited or jaded from the way that we have experienced the generations that came before us, one of the most important things that we have to think about is there is an imbalance in the power dynamic as a result of the lack of technology that was readily available to our parents. And so, I mean, in today's day and age, when someone wants to know something, you can fill in the blanks. And everybody does it. Everybody Googles it. That's where you find information if you don't know something. Whether or not you're Googling something to bring you to another search doesn't matter. The thing is that we actually have that as an option. And so I want you to imagine, like, even so simply as like just directions. You're going to a new school, like a university or a college, and you're not from that city. And now you have to figure out how to get around. Automatically, we're not pulling out paper maps anymore. We actually have access to us in the moment, whether or not there's construction and traffic, or whether or not there is a clear pathway for us to continue on. And so I also want you to remember the map as your brain, or your brain as the map that it is, and those pathways, and being able to have a better understanding because of knowledge being power and having it at your fingertips. But even when we're thinking about how we cope, a lot of that has to do with understanding. And we seek understanding by searching. So when we're trying to solve problems and socially navigate, it's second nature to search. But for the people who came before us, our parents and higher generations, it's not second nature for them to search for solutions the way that we do. Obviously, these are sometimes our principals, managers, people who own companies before we even started working there. I mean, I could almost guarantee that the majority of those individuals are older than us, but they don't actually always have that habit of finding solutions in the way that we do. Quick, on the fly, heat of the moment. And so that brain, which is their map, or that map, which is their brain, is sporadically, spontaneously being met with traffic and construction. We're literally being given access to maps within our brain that can change on the fly. It's a difference in a power dynamic that gives us the power to pivot. And so I've said it before and I'll say it again. There is no way for a boat to float if you don't have both sides. And I say that because balance is required from the boat. That's the both sides concept. And so, yes, there might be a different mentality and perspective from someone who is younger than is older. Male, female, manager, employee. But unless both sides meet straight down the middle, then that balance will not be achieved and the boat won't float. And so even though we have the cockiness of access to technology, we still benefit from the wisdom and steadiness of our elders. We still benefit from the lessons that they've learned and how they had to learn them. The patience and the perseverance required to bring them to the very place that they are today, because it's still beneficial for us, even if it's a difference in a power dynamic. So as you can see, this goes both ways. And it can be from somebody who's feeling like they're in the lesser position, basically grouping with other individuals that they feel that they have more in common with, readily hanging out in their comfort zone, not talking to anybody else of a different age range or wage, position, gender, race, education, or qualification, because they don't feel comfortable out of that zone. But nothing's ever achieved in your comfort zone. Like, much of the same repetition can happen. Routine is obviously important. So there are things that are achieved in your comfort zone, but it's not where the glass ceilings break. The reason why is because when you repeat the same thing over and over again, they say it's insanity, but it's also routine. It's consistency. And then when you do something different, that's that creativity. That's that breaking of the glass ceiling and thinking outside the box. And so, again, you're going to need balance. You cannot, in any sort of the word, strive or thrive without a balance of both. You've got the comfort zone, and you hang out with people that you always see, and you're sticking to what you know, and it feels good because it's safe. But I don't think it's feeling good for people, or as good as feeding your soul. And so I encourage you to do those things that make you afraid to do them just because they're new. There's real things that you should be afraid to do because they're unsafe. Please don't do those things. But what I want you to do is grab a pen, grab a paper. I feel like I should have said that out the gate. Pretty much write down 3 things that you feel are scary, even though they're scary. Write them down. But the things that are safe that you can actually do. If you really want to crash a car, please don't write that. But yeah, you're gonna have to scratch that off your list. But write the things that you know you can do and still stay alive. And within your comfort zone, I mean, those things could be anything. It could be going to somewhere new that you've never traveled to. It could be telling somebody how you feel. Yes, you. It could be anything so far as wearing something that you feel is eclectic. But write it down. It's literally only 3 things. Face that fear and do that life and physically safe thing. And see how you feel afterwards. Check in with yourself. Go back to your note. Leave space between each. Write how you feel afterwards. Because it's guaranteed that you're going to feel exhilaration, even though it's not dangerous. And it's a safe way to bring you slightly outside of your comfort zone of that power dynamic that is like an unwritten rule that exists in our social normatives. And just crack that click. You know what I mean? When you're hanging out with the people that you already know, when you're doing all the things you already know, you're becoming like clicky. And when you're in a click, it's, it's a click. You got to crack that click so that you try new things, experience new things, and learn to love new things. Because in every aspect, the power dynamics are existing. And so no matter what you do, they will always be there. It's not going to change them. Something that you can and have the power to change is yourself. The way that you exist, how you feel, and whether or not you're loving life unconditionally. Loving life unconditionally means taking risks here and there. When you're going to ride a bike, you really, really want to ride that bike. So getting on that bike and trying to get to ride the bike is going to hurt because you're going to fall. And so that there might be some good outcomes and some bad outcomes from everything that we experience in our life. However, we all know that even though we fell off the bike, we got back on and we kept riding because it's fun to ride your bike. And as life goes on, riding a bike adds value to your life. A lot of people before getting a car get a bike to get them from A to B. And so it's pretty much that facing of the fear. Because the first time getting on the bike felt terrifying. But then you felt, and you did get hurt. I have the scars on my knees to prove it. But you didn't die. And the point is that what didn't kill you in that moment made you stronger. And so that's how we make the power dynamic boxes more malleable so that more and more people can mesh with each other. Because just because I'm flying first class doesn't mean that I don't need to be friendly and say hi to the other people on the plane. You know what I mean? Who knows? That plane might crash. And me and that other person might be the person I said hi to that helps me out. I don't know. Maybe I can help them. Maybe we can help each other. Ultimately, that's my point. Where I'm going with this is the power dynamics exist because a difference in wage, difference in position, difference in gender, difference in race, age, education, and qualifications. But if we just try to face our fears, maybe we can help each other. So, yeah, people say that I'm a dreamer. But I'm not the only one. So I'm just quoting the Beatles. Anywho, song suggestion of the week. Godspeed by James Blake. Enjoy. It's a phenomenal song. Thanks for joining me this week, loved ones. See you next week. Bye.